Carnivore mistake number 6.
So I think that another one that people make is that, not again, in keeping the theme of actually not sticking with full-blown carnivore, and then incorporating things like fruit and honey, saying, well, these are sort of natural sugars and natural sweeteners. And that's true, but so is sucrose. Sucrose is a natural sweetener. It comes from sugar cane or sugar beets, and it's the same sugar. It's the same glucose. It's the same fructose, and it does the same things in your body. People say, well, honey comes from bees, but that's an animal, but it's not of the animal. It's not animal tissue. It's just something that a bee has made, and so like your grandmother made vegetable soup, but that's carnivore because an animal made it. Well, no, she just made it. It's not it's not actually animal tissue. So that's the difference. It was funny actually, because it's bee vomit, right? And that's literally what it is. I mean, they're drinking nectar, they're concentrating it, and they're doing sort of chemical reactions in their body, and then they hork it up and they store it as a long-term food source, and that is literally what it is. And so I was just making that point online one day, and basically saying that cud is the equivalent in cows. That's the cows make it, they chew up the grass, they swallow it down, that sort of gets half digested, they puke it up into their mouth, chew it more, swallow it again. And I'm not going to eat cud either. I don't think that's something that's good for us either. That's food for a cow, and honey is food for a bee, and we're a human. And someone got mad. It's like, oh my God, it's not bee vomit. Like, you need education. And I'm like, well, actually, technically, it actually is bee vomit. That's exactly what it is. And either way, it's not animal tissue. And either way, it has a high concentration of sugar and fructose in particular. And fructose has been shown time and time again, in study after study, to be quite harmful, especially, taken long term. Now, if you're starving, probably the best thing for you is to get that hit of energy. Restores your liver glycogen, muscle glycogen super quick. Like fructose is the quickest at replenishing your glycogen, apart from your fat in your body, because your body constantly replenishes your glycogen. But outside of a starvation survival situation, I don't think that it's optimal. I don't think that it's what you want to do. And Dr. Robert Lustig has shown, actually has performed randomized controlled trials in humans, showing the reversible nature of metabolic disease and metabolic syndrome in adolescents by simply removing fructose or adding fructose. And so these studies actually met the Bradford Hill criteria for causation. So he actually proved causation between fructose and metabolic syndrome. So, I think it's a problem. And, maybe it's better. Maybe there are some things in honey that make it better than, table sugar, undoubtedly. And same with fruit. But that doesn't mean that the sugar acts any differently in your body. It just means that there's other things that mitigate it, that are also of benefit. But that doesn't make the sugar good for you by any stretch of the imagination. And people say fruit, well, that's a part of the plant that the plant wants you to eat. Well, it wants something to eat it, not necessarily you.
Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Stakes, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmanstakes.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys.
And so those fruits are generally biologically adapted to, or sort of co-evolved with animals to eat them and then move their fruit and their seed. A lot of the fruits that we eat now are cultivated. They're not a natural plant. They've been bioengineered from intensive breeding or by genetic modification to be way more sweet or changed in some major fashion. These are not normal plants. These are modified by humans. And even then, the majority of fruits are still toxic to humans because they want something to eat a plant, not necessarily us. So in fact, most fruits and berries will still be very poisonous to you. A good example of that is cassowary, where most of these berries and fruits have actually evolved with birds. And so you see this in the tropics, where the cassowary bird, they eat 150 different kinds of fruit. Every single one will kill you. That's because the plant wants the cassowary bird to eat it. Because if that seed doesn't pass through the gut of a cassowary bird, it won't germinate. And so if anything else eats that fruit, that seed does not turn into a plant. So that is not in that plant's best interest. There's no survival advantage. There's no biological advantage for anything else eating that plant. And that thing is super toxic. And if, to the point that if the cassowary bird leave a territory, all those plants will die out because they have to have the cassowary bird. They will not germinate. They will not turn into a plant unless it goes through the gut of a cassowary bird. And so, yes, the plant wants something to eat the fruit or the berry, but not necessarily you. And either way, it's not a plant, or it is a plant, and it's not meat, and it's not carnivore, and I wouldn't eat it.
Neither would I. Okay, next one. Carnivore mistake number 7.
I would say I wouldn't eat it unless I was, needed to
Dying.
survive.
Unless you're
I'll
dying.
eat honey and fruit if I'm dying. Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Honey and fruit if you're dying.
That's it.
Otherwise, don't have it.
Yeah. Another one I think is, that people slip up on it is, they hear that, when I tell them, I was just like, they say, well, what about dairy? And I was like, well, that's a bit of a gray area. And, so if you can have it sometimes as a condiment, some people can't do dairy. Most people, like with autoimmune issues, they really need to avoid dairy. They need to just be meat and water, and usually just red meat and water, and as close to grass-fed and finished red meat and water as possible, especially while they're healing and they're usually for around this first 6 months, and they can be a bit more tolerant of things. But dairy seems to have a problem with certain people. It's pro-inflammatory. There's the A1 casein protein and A2 casein protein. A1 is more pro-inflammatory, but A2 is actually pro-inflammatory as well. It's just not as bad as A1, but people can still have problems with it. And so, and there are other issues as well. However, one of the things that people find is that they can actually stall their weight loss and their fat loss if they're eating like a lot of dairy. And that's a very common thing that I see, is that when someone's stalling or even gaining weight, they're putting on weight, and it's just like you talk to them and they're actually eating just a ton of dairy because they hear that, well, you can use dairy as a condiment, you can melt cheese on meat, you can have a bit of yogurt or sour cream on meat. And I always say, use it as a condiment. Meat is the meal. You can have a bit of this for flavor, texture, whatever, but really focus on the meat. And they think, and all they hear is, yes, you can have dairy. And they just start eating just buckets of yogurt and having sour cream and drinking milk. I mean, milk is a bad idea just because it has enough lactose to increase your insulin and kick you off ketosis and cause other metabolic issues. But a lot of people will just eat a ton of this. I don't know how many people I told in Australia when I moved to Perth, and told me exactly that, in that way, that to eat dairy sparingly and as a condiment only, and went into detail about it. And I talked to him a few weeks later, and like, how's it going? I was like, well, I'm not really losing weight. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? What are you eating? It's like, mostly halloumi. I'm like, what? And they just like, go to Costco and just get a 3-kilo jug of halloumi. And like, they're just eating, that's what they're eating. They're just eating just halloumi cheese just all day, every day.
That's why if I'm at a place and that cheese is there, I don't even touch it, not even one bite, because halloumi is like, see, even though it doesn't have the sugar, but it's got this casein protein, and there's like casein, morphine addiction. So let's just say there's no sugar, but it's got this addictive quality, but it's so salty and fatty. That's another combination that you just can't stop eating.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Yeah, and Dr. Paul Mason, he points out that there's actually a very, very low grade, small amount of opiate in milk, and this is you're trying to attract the baby cows or baby person or baby whatever, saying, hey, you should have more of this. So they're like, wow, I really want that. I really want that. Now you're not going to get high, right? But there's enough of it that there's just that kind of like, hey, I like that. You get a bit of a dopamine kick and you're like, I enjoy this. I want more of this. And I certainly noticed that. I really need to limit I just need to cut out milk is the main thing, because I love milk. I used to always drink like a gallon of milk a day growing up. I loved it.
Really? But you were an athlete,
Yeah, well, even when I was a kid, like a young kid, I loved milk. We always had skim milk though, so it wasn't actually really all that nutritious, but I still loved it. I just loved the taste, and just like cold and nice, and I just chug it. And now, it just tastes like ice cream to me, because I like my sweet, I'm so sensitive to sweet now. I drink like, that lactose is just like so sweet to me. It's just like, I'm like drinking ice cream. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I really don't want to stop. And it's not good. So, I find that compulsive aspect of it as well. And so I understand it from people, but that is definitely something that will trip people up. And I think people follow, their bodies and hunger chase nutrients more than calories. And so you're drinking milk, or you're having, and that's going to screw you up too, because the carbohydrates are going to, boost your hunger signals anyway, and you'll probably overeat. The cheeses or whatever, they're going to have things that are good for you, but they don't have everything. It's not complete nutrition like the steak is. And so your body still wants those nutrients. And so what I find is that quite often people will eat the exact same amount of meat every day, regardless of the amount of dairy they eat. That dairy is always an addition, it's always added. So if they're having a piece of halloumi or a pound of halloumi, like it's in addition to the same exact amount of meat that they're eating generally. And so now you're just adding in extra food that your body doesn't necessarily need or want. And that can definitely stall weight loss, or even have people gain weight. That's something that people may think that they're very, very limited, and they're like, I have no options, I have no choices, and they get pretty sad about it, and they get sort of worn down and beaten down, and think like, oh, I just can't eat anything, I'm limited.